Hey guys, let's talk boxing. I just shot a video, but it was a bit long. I want to do it again and just shorten it up. So yeah, just seeing the Josh Kelly, David Avanesyan fight, and first off, before I go into my reaction to begin with, I thought Josh Kelly looked. I don't think you could have looked any better than that. He looked like I really was thinking he looks like a superstar in the making. He was in great shape. Hand speed was just incredible. Reflexes. For me, there were remnants of certain moves that he did in that fight of all the great fighters. Right? I'm not comparing him to those guys, obviously, because he's still up and coming. Right? But there were shots that he was doing that remind me of Roy Jones Jr. Little bits and pieces of Mayweather. You know, all those sort of good fighters. James Toney. But I've got to be honest. Don't know much about the two fighters. Haven't watched loads of their fights, but didn't really need to. I always thought and sensed I should have done a breakdown, right? Easier looking back in hindsight, but I just could sense that David Avanesyan was going to knock him out, and I think it just comes from watching boxing for so many years and just having that intuition. And again, it's really such a cruel sport, boxing, because let's give Josh Kelly credit at first. Came in amazing shape. That's the best I've ever seen him. The first 5 rounds on my scorecard, Kelly won every round. But again, someone said this about boxing the other day. I can't remember who said it, a pundit. You can be winning the rounds in boxing, so you're winning the rounds on points, but you're losing the fight. And the question that I had about Josh Kelly when I was watching this fight, as someone who hasn't watched massive amounts of his career, and I haven't seen any of David Avanesyan, but just what I could sense and see, I was always thinking, how is he going to react when he gets hit by David Avanesyan? Because we saw how David Avanesyan reacted. Josh Kelly stunned him in that fight. But I've got to be honest, I never felt like he was going to knock David Avanesyan out. But I've got to say, I mean, for the first 4 or 5 rounds, he threw the kitchen sink at David Avanesyan. That reminded me, in a different way, but similar to the Groves-Froch first fight, when George Groves was just boxing Carl Froch's head off. Like even Carl Froch said, it hit him with the kitchen sink. But once Carl Froch got in there and landed those heavy shots, it was over, right? And that's what we saw today, and that's the confusing thing about boxing sometimes, and even life and fighting. Right, I'm gonna go too deep, but just because somebody looks better, and clearly he's naturally, I mean, I think you'd be out of your mind to not be able to see and admit that Josh Kelly is a far naturally better talented boxer than David Avanesyan, but he's not a better fighter, because that was proven today, and there's no excuses. And just the shot selection Josh Kelly was throwing, I was so impressed. The speed was lightning, honestly. That hand speed, I haven't seen with those combinations since Amir Khan. Amir Khan's got that freakish speed with 3-4 punches, and you kind of have to blink. Like, did that just happen? But it didn't look like he could hurt David Avanesyan, and he was boxing I don't think he could have boxed a better fight. But you could just see the two game plans working, and we've seen it many times with these Eastern European Russian fighters. They're very tough. They don't have a lot of the time. They don't have the movement of a Floyd Mayweather or a Josh Kelly or a Calzaghe or so many other boxers, that have got great movement, slick timing. But what they have is unbelievable relentless toughness and just that mindset of refusing to lose. And they're very patient and disciplined. And that's what I saw today. I saw 2 game plans, and I saw Josh Kelly's and obviously Adam Booth's game plan playing out. But I could see that David Avanesyan's game plan was going to take over and win in the latter stages of the fight. But I was surprised it happened as early as it did. I thought David Avanesyan was going to get Josh Kelly out. I thought he was going to get him out in around 10th round when he got tired. But he did look vulnerable, didn't he, Josh Kelly? When he got hit, he did look like he was going to go. He wasn't recovering. But when he was on top boxing, I'm just being honest. I'm not exaggerating. Josh Kelly looked more talented than any boxer I can think of. I'm not saying throughout the whole history of boxing. I mean today, when we talk about who's boxing today, especially in England, his talent is unbelievable. But I just felt the talent didn't match up with the toughness and the chin and the heart. I felt in that department it wasn't enough. And it's funny, David Avanesyan hasn't got the hand speed, he hasn't got those reflexes of Josh Kelly, but he's got a winning formula, and he found the way, and he broke him down. And I think mentally he broke him down as well. He just kept coming. He was patient. You could see, tight guard, that typical Eastern European style, which people criticise a lot, and they did it with the Klitschko's. But look how effective it is. But yeah, it's kind of unfair, man, because another part of me is thinking, it's almost unfair that Josh Kelly didn't get to win that fight based on how well he was boxing for the first 5 rounds until he got stopped in the 6th. But that's boxing for you, as they say. It's kind of different to the amateurs where you can win with that style on points, but in the pros, you can be losing 8 rounds, 9, 10 rounds, and then the knockout punch comes, and it just, I don't know, man. Growing up, and I always like learning from other people and fascinated with watching fights, and a lot of the times these flashy type fighters with the fast reflexes, they don't always get to the top. And of course we cannot include Mayweather. Mayweather's once in a lifetime, he's special, and Mayweather can do everything. And so I'm not reverting to Mayweather and people like James Toney and all of these slick, fast fighters. But the difference with someone like Mayweather and people like Shane Mosley is they know when to go back to the fundamentals. And I felt almost at times, it's weird to say this, but I almost felt Josh Kelly was almost too good in certain phases of the fight where he didn't need to do all that showboating. He just could have stuck to the game plan, which was working, which was keeping on the outside, keeping away, picking him off. Avanesyan, jabs, uppercuts, combinations. It was beautiful, man. It reminded me of Kawasaki. It reminded me of some of shades of Kawasaki. It's such a shame for a fighter to be so talented, but to lose in such a traumatic way. So kind of disappointing, but got to give credit to David Avanesyan because said what he was going to do, and unbelievable fight. But yeah, what a great boxing show. Really enjoyed it. Like I said, I really enjoyed the Florian fight. I thought Florian was I was well impressed today with Florian. This is only the second fight I've seen. The last fight where that wasn't a draw, he won that fight, bad decision. But today he boxed brilliant, great patience, great, beautiful jab, sharp. Maybe I'll do a separate video on that. But what do you guys think about the Josh Kelly? You might disagree with me, you might see eye to eye. How did you feel the styles played out, and what did you see? But yeah, it was. I know I keep repeating myself a bit like a broken record, but it's like some fighters that I've watched growing up who I've liked so much, and he's got that likability, Josh Kelly, because he's just got that. He looks like a superstar. He's got great movement, but I just felt today it just was lacking something. Or maybe David Avanesyan is just that much better, right? Maybe you guys can fill me in. I haven't watched loads of his career, didn't know much about him, but wow, that was he's going to be tough to beat. I would like to see Conor Benn against David Avanesyan, but I'd have to make David Avanesyan the favourite. But I do think Conor Benn can beat him. He has got it in him. He has got the toughness. That's the thing. But yeah, I think Josh Kelly is more talented than Conor Benn. But I think if I had to make a judgment now, I think I'd have to give Conor Benn. I'd have to edge Conor Benn to win that fight on his pure brute strength, toughness. I think Conor Benn's got a hell of a lot of heart. I'm not saying, because it feels unfair when you say that. I'm not saying Josh Kelly hasn't got heart. Of course he's got heart. Couldn't get to that level, but it's like I said when I was breaking down the Fury and the Joshua fight, which a lot of people don't agree with me. Some of you do. I just think Tyson Fury's got more heart than Joshua, and that's what I saw today. David Avanesyan had more heart than Josh Kelly. He didn't have more boxing skills, and he's not a better boxer, but it proves that you don't always need to be the better boxer. And again, another fight it reminds me of is when Maidana beat Adrian Broner. Again, Adrian Broner is talent-wise, it's kind of like you can't even compare boxing ability. Adrian Broner's got far more better boxing ability than Maidana, but Maidana's just too tough, and he's just relentless. And for what he lacks in, speed and reflexes, he makes up in strength and heart, and that's what it reminded me of today a little bit. David Avanesyan, it reminded me, his style, it reminds me of Maidana. I know it's slightly different, but similar methodology in that they look a bit awkward. It doesn't look aesthetically pretty to watch, but it's highly effective. So, so you have to say they're great fighters. So for me, Josh Kelly was winning the boxing match today, but he lost the fight. And you just got to give credit to the better man. But it's a shame because someone with Josh Kelly's talent I really enjoyed it, man. I really enjoyed watching him. He's skilled. I hope he comes back and can come back from that. But I'm not sure if he can come back from that or not. What do you guys think? But yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I'm grateful. And it's true what Eddie Hearn was saying. I mean, these guys are warriors, man. To be able to go and do what they're doing with no crowd, that must be really hard when you're used to having a crowd, and you can hear it. It's brutal. It almost feels like, although we're watching boxing, it almost feels like there's an element of like an underground fight. It's like the bloody it's like watching the Kumite in Bloodsport. It's really violent, and sometimes having the crowd, it kind of can overshadow the brutalness of boxing and the pain that these guys go through. But with no crowd, you can hear everything. And so yeah, I'm grateful for the show that Josh Kelly put on. And I do feel bad. I've got to be honest. And I wasn't a massive fan because I didn't really know much about him. Just heard little bits, but kind of felt gutted to see. It's sad seeing someone heartbroken, and it's not even like you could say Josh Kelly had an off night, because he was boxing brilliant. I don't think he could have boxed any better, but David Avanesyan was just too tough. He was just too strong and too powerful for him. And it's a shame because when he hurt David Avanesyan, I can't remember what round it is, you guys let me know. Was it the second round or was it the third? Between 1 and 3. I'm tired, you guys can tell, right? He went for it, but couldn't get him out of there. Didn't really have that concussive power to put him out. And I think Conor Benn has got that power to put David Avanesyan out, but I think David Avanesyan would beat Conor Benn in a very late stoppage. But I hope I'm wrong, because I'm really getting behind Conor Benn, and his dad Nigel Benn is for me growing up as a kid, one of my heroes, one of my favourite fighters growing up. Nigel Benn was my favourite middleweight, and then the likes of obviously Joe Kawasaki for me is probably my favourite super middleweight fighter of all time. But yeah, I like how Conor Benn's been improving. I think he's doing a lot better than people thought, and he can go away and be a champion. But I think that'd be a cracking fight. I think that's going to be a war, Conor Benn with David Avanesyan, because Conor Benn's not gonna quit. He's not gonna back down. He's going to have to be knocked out, and he's just he has got a lot of heart. And I just felt like when it got really gritty, it's hard to say it because you don't want to call anyone a quit or anything, but you just felt like Josh Kelly kind of gave in. You could sort of see it in his body language, and that, I think Adam Booth, I thought at first I was like, why is he throwing the towel in? But then you realise probably the right decision, so he doesn't get worse a punishment. But yeah, he wasn't going to come back in that. But yeah, I think Josh Kelly is one of the most talented British fighters I've seen in many years for actual ability. I was like, wow, this kid he can really move and box and everything. But it's weird, isn't it? Because they were saying at the start, the commentators, that Josh Kelly's making this guy David Avanesyan miss for fun. But once it got to the 5th round, he just started landing. He landed a couple of straight rights, probably some body shots, and it just felt like Josh Kelly then started. The lady commentator said it, so I forgot her name. He just stayed in front of David Avanesyan a second too longer than he was standing in front of him before, prior to that, when he was boxing so beautifully. He was like a cat. He couldn't lay in the glove on him. But then it just felt like he couldn't maintain that discipline. Like mentally, he broke him down, and that's what happened. So that's my thoughts, my reaction, and I'll talk boxing with you guys soon.